This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Good afternoon. Thanks for checking in. Some much-needed rain is on the way. Drought-stricken regions of the listening area due for a decent dose of dampness. Meteorologist Kevin Williams says a wet Wednesday's waiting in the wings. His forecast is yours coming up. Evacuation orders are in effect along the Outer Banks of North Carolina. This has the first named storm of the 2025 hurricane season spins northward over the open waters of the Atlantic Ocean. Hurricane Aaron poses no threat to land, but could spawn deadly rip currents for hundreds of miles from Florida to New England.
The Outer Banks of North Carolina is ground zero for the impacts from Hurricane Aaron. And even though it will not make a U.S. landfall, these beaches are going to be decimated. Already high surf advisories along with coastal flood watches up for the Outer Banks and up and down most of the eastern seaboard. We're going to have rip currents, wave heights here in the surf zone on the Outer Banks, anywhere from 15 to 20 feet as we go into Wednesday and Thursday.
Mike Seidel with Fox Weather in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Peace talks continue to try and end the war between Russia and Ukraine. At the center of those talks is President Trump.
We're all working for the same goal, very simple goal. We want to stop the killing, get this settled.
The commander-in-chief met separately the past few days with both the leaders of Russia and Ukraine. Now he's trying to get Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky in the same room together.
See if we can get it finished, put this to sleep, because this is not since the Second World War has there been anything like this.
The Trump administration is pressuring Ukraine to cede some territory to Russia in exchange for security guarantees from the U.S. President Zelensky at the White House yesterday.
What security guarantees do you need from President Trump to be able to make a deal? Is it American troops, intelligence, equipment? What is it?
Everything, he says. President Trump not ruling out sending U.S. peacekeeping forces to Ukraine. Right now, Russia controls about 20% of that country. There's talk of peace in the Middle East. The terror group Hamas has signed off on a ceasefire to wind down the war in Gaza. It's a war that Hamas started when it invaded Israel 2 years ago. Israel is yet to approve the deal. Reporter Linda Gradstein is in Jerusalem.
Israel is still making plans to take over Gaza City, and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that this proves that Hamas is under tremendous pressure, and that's why they accepted the deal.
This deal would release 10 living hostages and 18 deceased hostages in exchange for Israel setting free more Palestinian prisoners. A deal's been reached in the Air Canada strike. 10,000 flight attendants agreeing to return to work after making progress on a new contract this morning. A weekend walkout forced flight cancellations that stranded hundreds of thousands of passengers. President Trump is moving to eliminate mail-in ballots ahead of next year's midterm.
The president shared a post on Truth Social, which outlined his plan to lead a movement to get rid of mail-in ballots. And it targets what he called highly inaccurate, very expensive, and seriously controversial voting machines.
Ballots are corrupt. Mail-in ballots, you can never have a real democracy with mail-in ballots.
Trump has previously claimed there's been widespread voter fraud involving mail-in ballots and pledged to fight for election integrity. I'm Brian Shook.
California Republicans are blasting new redistricting retaliation legislation being promoted by Democrats. That's in response to new-look congressional maps that are being drawn in Texas that favor Republicans. The GOP's Carl DeMaio calls the legislative effort in Sacramento a corrupt seizing of power.
Gavin Newsom and other politicians have been lying in wait, with emphasis on lying, to seize back the power from the people. And they are using Texas as just the window dressing, the excuse to seize back control.
Governor Newsom's called for a special election November 4th to put California's gerrymandering bill up for a vote. ICE is on a recruitment campaign. It's offering $50,000 signing bonuses for new employees as it looks to ramp up detention centers across these United States.
The administration says that it will look to states like Nebraska and other Republican-led jurisdictions to lend them facilities, to turn them into immigration detention centers. Importantly, the administration is also trying to turn military bases into immigration detention centers.
ICE agents recently rescued 10 children from a human trafficking ring in Omaha, Nebraska. That ring was operating out of motels and beauty salons. All the children were under the age of 12 and were crammed into cockroach-infested rooms. The motel was also being used for drug trafficking. 5 Indian nationals, all in the country illegally, now facing felony charges. New York Governor Kathy Hochul is condemning ICE for detaining a 7-year-old girl from Ecuador.
The girl's mother and 19-year-old brother were also detained by ICE agents last week when they reported to 26 Federal Plaza in Manhattan for a routine immigration check-in. The mother and child were sent to a Texas detention center, while the adult son was sent to New Jersey. Hochul called the act cruel and unjust and says her office has contacted Homeland Security demanding their immediate return to New York. I'm Sarah Lee Kessler.
MSNBC will soon have a new name. The cable news network will be known as MS Now, which is short for My Source for News, Opinion, and the World. MS Now will operate independently from NBC News. Still to come on the Noon Report for Tuesday, Republicans rally around Garrity, phone scam in Steuben County, and the migration of the monarch butterflies.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. The drought-stricken portions of our region are due for a decent dose of dampness over the next 36 hours. I'll have forecast details coming up in 10.
All right, Kevin, we'll talk to you then. Let's talk politics next. A New York State lawmaker has entered the race to try and unseat Democratic Congressman John Mannion. Republican Assemblyman John Lamondis says he's gunning for the first-term incumbent who represents New York's 22nd congressional district. The 60-year-old Lamondis says he supports school choice and is adamantly pro-life. Lamondis is a 27-year Army vet who served in both Iraq and Afghanistan. The 22nd district, by the way, includes all or some of Madison, Onondaga, Oneida, Cayuga, and Cortland counties. Pennsylvania has never had a female governor, but State Treasurer Stacey Garrity hopes to change that next year. She's running to unseat Democratic incumbent Josh Shapiro. Senate President Kim Ward calls Garrity smart, strong, and fearless.
She does not back down. She's open, she's honest, and I think that she is a nightmare for Governor Shapiro.
Garrity could face a Republican primary challenge from State Senator Doug Mastriano, who lost to Shapiro in the last governor's race. Steuben County, New York authorities warning residents today about a phone scam where callers pose as police officers and demand money. Last week, a woman from Painted Post got a call from somebody who claimed she'd missed jury duty. The caller then told her she would be arrested unless she paid a fine. The sheriff says this is a scam and police will never ask for money over the phone. Susquehanna Township, Pennsylvania has a controversial referendum on the ballot on Election Day, November 4th. The ballot initiative raises property taxes so a new middle school can be built. School officials say the building is necessary to address overcrowding. Joshua Gibson is the principal at that middle school and says he understands taxpayer concerns.
As a parent, I completely understand that perspective, and I think that we really need to focus on getting creative, go outside the box to come up with an answer to this problem.
If the referendum is approved, the district would build a new elementary school for 4th through 6th graders. The district's already purchased the land for that school. Area colleges and universities are buzzing back to life with the return of students for the fall semester, and this includes SUNY Binghamton, where thousands of students are just settling in at 24 dorms and 20 apartment buildings. Casey Wall, the director of residential life, tells WIVT she's glad to have the students back.
Having the students on campus, it just adds so much more. Honestly, the students are why we're here, and so without them, it just feels funny, and so having them all back is just, it's the best part of the job.
SUNY Binghamton is the SUNY system's third largest campus by enrollment. Classes for the fall semester began today. Loved ones of family members laid to rest at St. Joseph Cemetery in Niagara Falls are demanding action to spruce up that cemetery, which has fallen into disrepair in recent years.
We're just worried about the structural integrity of where we put our loved ones to rest.
This is the worst in the past 2 years that we've seen this.
Flooded crypts, fallen trees, and damaged headstones, just a few of the concerns folks have with the condition of that cemetery and the mausoleum. The families say they've been clamoring for change for years, but those complaints seem to be falling on deaf ears.
They're not answering us. And nothing's being done.
The cemetery, which is run by the Buffalo Catholic Diocese, has 13,000 grave sites and 2,000 crypts. Age is just a number, or so they say, and for 70-year-old Roxana Strine of Pennsylvania, that number is 2,200. That's how many miles she hiked to become one of just 20,000 people to have ever hiked the entire Appalachian Trail. She tells WPMT the secret to such a long walk is pretty simple.
One step in front of the other, every step along the way. When you got to the first 100 miles, they have it written on stone on the ground. It's like, yes, 100 miles, 200, the whole way. Every time you get to a milestone, it's like excitement all over again.
The York County woman says hiking the Appalachian Trail doesn't need to be intimidating.
It will grow on you, and your goal can be like, I want to be able to do all of Pennsylvania. And then once you get that done, it's like, oh, I want to try another state. Start small. You don't have to start out by doing 2,200 miles. I'm 70 and I'm doing this.
How about that? The century-old Appalachian Trail, by the way, runs from Maine to Georgia and passes through 5 New York counties and 11 Pennsylvania counties. A new report names New York and Pennsylvania as 2 of the top 10 states to live in. The survey from Wallet Hub ranks states on affordability, education, and overall quality of life. New York was 9th this year. Pennsylvania came in 10th. New Mexico was last. Massachusetts first. Well, soon you'll be able to bid on some memorabilia from a movie that's being filmed in Pennsylvania. Here's Family Life's Brian Query.
You might remember hearing about the filming of the movie Hershey. It chronicles the life of Milton and Catherine Hershey. Well, now props from the movie are up for auction. The auction is being handled by Carey Auctions, and it includes props from the first and second days of shooting, including furniture, jars, glassware, and lights. The auction is already underway, and it runs through August 27th. If you are interested in seeing what's available or to bid on any items, visit careyauction.com. That's CAREY auction.com. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Maybe they got some Hershey bars lying around. I'd like that. Thank you, Brian. A North Tonawanda, New York high school senior has just been nominated for Sports Illustrated's Youth Athlete of the Year. He's 17-year-old Derek Black, and he plays football, ice hockey, and lacrosse for the Lumberjacks, with football being his favorite sport. Derek was born without a right hand, but has never let that slow him down. He says his goal is to show others that limitations do not have to define you. Derek Black is currently in first place in the voting for Sports Illustrated's Youth Athlete of the Year. We've got more sports next. It's the 2-minute drill right here on the Family Life Noon Report.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, the Phillies bats were alive and kicking against Seattle last night. Trey Turner had 4 hits and a home run, his first home run at home this season. Bryce Harper went deep in back-to-back innings. JT Realmuto, 3 hits and a long ball. Schwarber, Kepler, Stott also drove in runs. The Phillies needed most of those runs, however, because the Mariners really didn't roll over. They scored 7 of their own, but it was clearly not enough. 12-7 the final. Paul Skeens was too much for the American League's top team, holding them to 2 runs over 6 innings and striking out 8. The Pirates down Toronto 5-2. The Blue Jays did not help themselves with some pretty sloppy play. The Bucs scored a run on a wild pitch, then another on an error, and it's just the Pirates' second win in their last 9 games. Detroit blew out the Astros in Houston 10-0. The Tigers had 4 home runs in the game. They were supposed to play 2 at Wrigley, but weather permitted only 1. The Cubs probably wish the rains had come even sooner. Red-hot Milwaukee clobbered the Cubbies 7-zip. They'll try for 2 today. Elsewhere in the Bigs, Baltimore doubled up Boston 6-3. KC edged Texas 4-3. The Cards down the Marlins 8-3. Seems like 3 runs was the kiss of death yesterday. Colorado 4-3 over the Dodgers. The Giants 4-3 over the Padres. They had a slugfest in Atlanta, and the White Sox held off the Braves to win it 13-9. The Reds 4-1 winners over the Angels. And finally, a team who scored 3 runs won a game. Cleveland downed Arizona 3-1. Preseason football, the Bengals 31-17 over the Commanders. That is a look at sports.
All right, Randy, man, thank you kindly. And still to come on the Noon Report, we're tracking Aaron in the Atlantic, prospects for peace in Eastern Europe, and a hometown hero who makes quilts for cancer patients.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. With the Colson Center, I'm John Stone Street. After his amazing victory on Mount Carmel against the prophets of Baal, Elijah fell into deep depression. Not only had he seen God work in a miraculous way, he had proven before all of Israel who really was the one true God. And yet, he immediately questioned whether God could protect him from Jezebel and falsely believed he was the only true prophet left in the land. Here's what he said, quote, "I've been very jealous for the Lord, the God of hosts, for the people of Israel have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, killed your prophets with the sword, and I, even I only am left, and they seek my life to take it away," end quote. Well, there's much to learn in this story, both about the vulnerabilities of humans and the kindness of God. For example, I absolutely love that the author of 1 Kings includes the detail that God sent an angel to Elijah first just to help him sleep and cook him food. Also, by informing Elijah that there were 7,000 people in Israel who had not bowed a knee to Baal, God reminded him that he was still very much at work in the world and that God primarily works through his people. And God has his people everywhere, today too. Often he uses unlikely candidates to be courageous voices of truth. And the upcoming film Truth Rising tells the stories of 5 courageous voices in this civilizational moment. As a young teenager, Chloe Cole was so completely lost and deceived about who she was, she underwent a double mastectomy attempting to be male. Well, God worked in her life to reveal what was true about who he is and who she is. And now, having detransitioned, she advocates for the truth that humans are made in God's image, male and female. She's a powerful voice pushing back against this very real darkness. The story of Seth Dillon and the Babylon Bee is basically the story of the last decade. First, the popular and funny satirical site was canceled from one of the most powerful channels of influence on the planet just for saying what is true. Committed, as Alexander Solzhenitsyn put it, to live not by lies, Dillon refused to take any shortcuts around the truth. But God was at work, and how that story turned out ended up shocking everyone. My friend Katie Faust was a pastor's wife in the Northwest who had an anonymous blog where she spoke truth about an ideology that subjects children to the whims of adult desire. But then Katie was outed by someone who threatened her and her entire church community. God used that incident to make Katie one of the leading champions in the world for the rights and well-being of children. And then there's Jack Phillips. Courage is not typically a required qualification of bakers, but it was for him. One afternoon, Jack took a stand when he was asked to design a cake with a message that was not true. And that stand led to 13 years of attacks by the state of Colorado and, eventually, one of the most consequential First Amendment wins of our lifetime. Again, Jack's story is a story of God at work. Perhaps best known among the 5 stories told in Truth Rising is of Ayaan Hirsi Ali, whose faith journey took her from Islam to atheism to Christ. An activist, political leader, and author, Ayaan has now found what she was always looking for and believes deeply that God has put her as a truth teller in this crucial cultural moment. So that's exactly what she's doing. These 5 stories of courage are fully told in the upcoming Truth Rising documentary. What's obvious in each is that God is at work through his people as much today as he was on Mount Carmel through Elijah. And that means we are not alone. We've been called to this time and this place. Don't miss the global streaming premiere of Truth Rising on September the 5th. Visit truthrising.com/Colson to learn more and sign up for updates. That's truthrising.com/Colson. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stone Street with Breakpoint.
I can't wait to see that film. Thank you, John. Outside we go, Kevin Williams.
Here is your Family Life weather forecast for this afternoon. Across New York State, variable clouds with some sunshine and a shower or two in the area. Across Pennsylvania, a mix of sun and clouds. High temperatures, 70s to near 80s. Rather cloudy and humid tonight into tomorrow with numerous showers and a few thundery downpours. Low tonight near 60. Tomorrow will be cooler than today with high temperatures mid-60s to the mid-70s. On Thursday, variable clouds, chance for a shower, and high temperatures in the 70s.
I will take the rain. Do need it. Thank you, Kevin. This is the Noon Report. I'm Bob Price, and here's what's happening Tuesday, the 19th of August. The first named storm of the Atlantic hurricane season's whipping up wild waves along the East Coast. Even though Hurricane Erin will stay well offshore, she still poses a threat to beachgoers. From Florida to New England.
The swells emanating from Erin and the rough ocean conditions are likely to cause life-threatening surf and rip currents up and down the eastern seaboard, and all swimmers are advised to stay out of the water beyond anything that is ankle deep.
Meteorologist Craig Allen says an evacuation order was issued today for the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Officials in Wrightsville Beach have banned swimming for the rest of the week after lifeguards rescued 60 people yesterday. President Trump says we'll know soon whether a lasting peace is achievable between Russia and Ukraine in Eastern Europe.
We'll see, and in a certain period of time, not very far from now, a week or 2 weeks, we're going to know whether or not we're going to solve this, or is this horrible fighting going to continue. We'll do the best to get it ended. And I believe you have 2 willing parties, and usually that's good news.
Trump wants Ukraine to cede some territory that Russia took during the war in exchange for security guarantees. Mr. Trump not ruling out sending U.S. peacekeeping forces to the war-torn country. Russia today controls about 20% of Ukraine. The leaders of Hamas say they're willing to agree to the latest ceasefire proposal to end the fighting in the Middle East.
Mediators from Qatar and Egypt crafted the latest plan as Israel prepares to launch an assault for the occupation of Gaza City. The proposal calls for the release of 10 living hostages and 18 deceased in exchange for a number of Palestinian prisoners now held by Israel. Israel says its terms have not changed. Release all the remaining hostages, disarm Hamas, and give Israel security control of the Gaza Strip. I'm Rory O'Neill.
Millions of monarch butterflies are beginning to migrate across North America. The butterflies are leaving their summer breeding grounds for a 3,000-mile trek to California and Mexico. This migration typically happens from mid-August through mid-November. Monarch butterflies cannot survive for long in the cold. Oklahoma has a new plan to test applicants from 2 other states, applicants who are interested in teaching jobs.
Oklahoma Public School Superintendent Ryan Walters says the test is designed to safeguard against what he calls radical leftist ideology. Applicants from New York and California will have to take the test. Walters says it will make sure they understand American exceptionalism and grasp the fundamental biological differences between boys and girls. Critics call it a MAGA loyalty test that will scare away applicants as Oklahoma faces a severe shortage of teachers.
CBS's Michael Wallace. Younger generations are picking up the Bible in increasing numbers, and it's a trend that's being seen not just in this country. The UK, for instance, has seen a 16% increase in church attendance among 18 to 24-year-olds. Russia saw Bible sales increase by a whopping 50% last year. You're tuned into the Noon Report on Family Life.
Welcome back to another edition of Hometown Heroes on Family Life. I'm Mark Webster, and this week's guest is Kelly Carson of Franklinville, New York, founder of the Cozy Quilts Ministry, providing quilts to cancer patients, along with the encouragement of the gospel. She says it began over 20 years ago when a good friend became ill with cancer.
In 2004, my best friend Connie was diagnosed with colon cancer. And in 1990, I had lost my sister to cancer, and she had taught me during her chemotherapy that cancer and chemo can make a person very cold and just can't get warm even though it's hot outside.
Right.
She taught me that, and then when Connie got cancer, I was learning how to quilt my very first quilt. And so when I finished it, I gave it to her with an explanation of why I was giving it to her and all about God's love for her, and that the two of us would always love her and such. And then when I was taking her to chemo, she asked if I would help her make quilts for her chemo partners, other people that were going to chemo.
Mm-hmm.
And so she said, there's 3 other people. And then as we're driving, she says, but there's people there on other days, so maybe 3 to 30 quilts? Could we make 3 to 30 quilts? And I'm like, sure, it's okay.
It's a lot to ask for. You were still a rookie quilter back then.
Exactly. I had made one. So we used the same pattern, and we still use the same pattern today. We did make quilts for other people in her chemo center, and we still drop them off there every month at the same chemo center. Connie went home to be with the Lord in 2007. By 2009, we had several other churches that wanted to start groups, and so we kind of outgrew our little country church in Farmersville, and had a board of directors and got an attorney on board and became an official 501c3 not-for-profit,
right.
And it has grown from there.
It certainly has. I see you're over 9,000 quilts now and still going.
Yes, about 9,300 quilts so far, and we have sent to all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and 20 foreign countries.
That's amazing. Probably couldn't have envisioned that when you were making that quilt number 1, could you?
No, not at all. But that's what happens with God. You say yes, and He does amazing things.
So true. He had the plan all along. He just eventually clued you in on it.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about what these quilts, I'm sure you've gotten a lot of feedback over 9,000 quilts over what these can mean to somebody who's going through cancer and chemo.
Oh, we have definitely gotten not 9,300 responses, but hundreds of responses. And from how did you know that lighthouses meant so much to me? And we didn't. That's the Holy Spirit sends the right quilt. Or we know of people who have come to Christ. It's not just a quilt with a tote bag.
Mm-hmm.
And with that tote bag, they get a book called When God and Cancer Meet by Lynn Ibe. And it's inspirational stories. Every chapter is a different person's journey with cancer and weaves the entire salvation story throughout. So we want to gently lead people to know that God loves them. And we've had many people report having come to Christ through the ministry, but we've also had many Christians who have just felt the love of Christ in a whole new way wrapped around them. It's really an evangelistic ministry that uses quilts to wrap the love of Christ around people.
That's just a wonderful story. And it's very personal for you, too. You mentioned how it all started with, a good friend, and your husband was touched by this as well. It's a very personal ministry for you, too, isn't it?
Yes. Last year, after 20 years of making cozy quilts, my husband was diagnosed with colon cancer, and he got his very own cozy quilt. So,
if somebody wanted to help you guys out, I'm sure you haven't made all 9,300 of these, I assume. You've got a big team there to help you. How does that all work?
Right now, we have 7 active groups in different Christian churches. There's 5 in Western New York, 1 in Pennsylvania, and 1 in Florida. One thing we like to do is kind of plant new quilt groups. We coordinate so every request comes through the main Cozy Quilt Ministry, so we know we don't duplicate and send from more than one group. I love to go out to new churches and do presentations and then help them get a quilt group started, give them everything they need to begin a quilt group, all the support they need to continue being able to do that. That's, one way. Another way, certainly the quilts don't do any good sitting in our cupboards, so people requesting quilts is important. We originally were just giving to one chemo center, but then individuals said, well, I know someone who has cancer, and I know someone who has cancer, and so most of those 9,000 plus quilts have gone out by word of mouth. People just calling or emailing and requesting a cozy quilt for someone they know, and that's certainly something that can be done. Each of our individual groups are associated with a Christian church, so each church receives donations for their group to continue to pay for postage and materials and the books that we use and everything.
If somebody wanted to either get a quilt for someone they know or even themselves, or wanted to help make the quilts, how would they go about that?
They can contact us at cozyquiltministries@gmail.com. They could also call or text 716-307-6459.
Going back to that first quilt, when I'm assuming it was just kind of a hobby, something fun to do, and to look back to over 20 years now, it's got to be gratifying, but also maybe even a bit humbling.
Very humbling. I say all the time that God started this ministry. Connie and I jumped in to help him or to do his work, but God started this ministry, and it's his ministry, and no one is blessed on a greater level, I feel, than I have been through Cozy Quilts. It's humbling to think that God trusts us to share his love with others.
The hands and feet of Christ, in this case, mostly the hands, I guess.
Well, the delivery people have to have the feet.
That's Kelly Carson of Franklinville, New York, founder of the Cozy Quilts Ministry, providing quilts to cancer patients along with the encouragement of the gospel message. Please join us again next time as we search for your home, your town, your hero. It's Hometown Heroes on Family Life.
Love that feature. Thank you, Mark. And Hometown Heroes comes your way every Tuesday during the Noon Report. You can catch it online anytime at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or our website, familylife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. A disturbance sliding east from the Great Lakes will be generating some showers and a few thunderstorms over the next 36 hours. And the drought-stricken portions of our region, particularly western New York, will get a decent dose of dampness. The call for this afternoon: across New York State, variable clouds with some sunshine and a shower or two in the area. Across Pennsylvania, a mix of sun and clouds. High temperatures 70s to near 80. Then rather cloudy and humid tonight into tomorrow with numerous showers and a few thundering downpours. Low tonight near 60. Tomorrow will be cooler than today with high temperatures mid-60s to the mid-70s. On Thursday, variable clouds, chance for a shower, and high temperatures in the 70s.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Fine at noon, zombie squirrels. They're popping up all over the place. Uh-oh. Here's Mark Mayfield.
According to reports from the Daily Mail, photos of the zombie squirrels have been captured and shared on social media since mid-2023. With a recent surge this summer, and experts claim the rodents are likely suffering from squirrel fibromatosis. The viral skin disease is caused by Leporopox virus and results in wart-like tumors with an oozing fluid that typically clears up on its own. The condition could become fatal for some infected squirrels, but they are reportedly not a threat to humans, pets, or birds, despite their appearance. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Well, that's good to know. Thank you, Mark. And that's our world, the world we live in. Tuesday, the 19th day of August. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.